I always thought that Lion King is one of those films that already has a lot of depth, so I don't know whether when it came to being told, well, we're going to put this out in 3D, whether you immediately got a thrill or whether a part of you thinks, well, this is a classic, I better not mess this up.
You know, I'd say it's more the thrill category, because having a lot of depth, in other words, having the filmmakers look at this as something dimensional when they were making it originally, having that depth that's inherent in it gave me something incredible to work with.
It's all, you said earlier when you gave a presentation, it took about 4 months for this to be converted over, and given just the body of work that Disney are sitting on, I'm sure there's a part of them would love to put just about, you know, at least half of them straight into 3D conversion. Do you get that sense that this is the beginning of something, or is it a case of wait and see?
I think there's a lot of interest in it. I mean, you know, it's, but there's no specific talk. I mean, the thing is, the way we dealt with this, we didn't have a specific, you know, conversion unit doing this. These are all of our artists that are working on our current animated features. So we were doing this kind of in between projects. So it was a matter of, you know, having the opportunity, having enough artists available that we could do that for 4 months. So, you know, it's a thing. If this were to become something where we're, you know, producing more of these, it might be something, you know, other than you know, in between projects. It would have to be you know, something where you'd have to look at staffing and et cetera.
Oh, I would think too that it's a film that's got so many pivotal scenes and so many striking scenes, right from Simba being held up as a baby to, you know, Scar's Nazi rally, to, you know, so many different scenes that you could, I'm sure, as a 3D stereographer, have a lot of fun with. I don't know whether those decisions were down to purely the technical prowess, or whether someone like Rob would tell you, well, these are the scenes, or whether John Lasseter would have an input. Oh,
definitely. Yeah, definitely. You know, it was great. You know, that took part of the trepidation of, you know, you're working with a classic, and you know, part of the trepidation of doing so was taken away by the fact that, you know, I had access to the original filmmakers. So, you know, I knew that something that I was doing wasn't out in left field. You know, even though, like I said, I had, you know, since I love this movie, I wanted to treat it with the utmost respect. And plus, that's my approach to 3D anyway. I mean, the story is what it is, and the scene, the 3D in the scene shouldn't be grandstanding. It should just be, or gimmicky. It should just be reflecting what the intent of the shot was anyway. And so I just carried that through, you know, in you know, creating the depth in Lion King. But unfortunately, I had, you know, as a sounding board, I had the original filmmakers, the directors and producer, and then, you know, John Lasseter, who always, you know, gets his eye on everything, and so, you know, that was great, like I said, a great sounding board to make sure that what I was doing wasn't, you know, off track.
And of course, all the little subliminal messages, they come out better in 3D, right? We can get all the little...
That's right.
Yeah. you right from Dinosaur in 2000, you did the workbook 3D
yes.
on that, and you've gone over to the dark side. You did some movie with DreamWorks, but you've done quite a lot with Disney and recently Bolt and Tangled. I don't know whether you always had this sort of real love for that 3D, because back in 2000 it wouldn't have been a going concern. I don't know.
No, it wasn't even an option. I mean, I'd always been interested in 3D, you know, just from you know, from the days as a kid looking at Viewmaster. I mean, there's certain magic to when you're, you know, when you put those two images together in your brain. There's that magic that happens that's kind of you know, fascinating. So I always had, you know, an interest in it, and then you know, I was working in you know, as you said, like workbook layout, which is the cinematography for animated films. I was working in that, and you know, had the chance to explore a kind of a, you know, literally a new dimension of filmmaking. You know, because this is you know, as I was saying in my presentation before, you know, the grammar for 2D for the 2D cinema has been well hashed out over, you know, over better than a century, whereas there has, you know, with the fits and starts of 3D so far, there hasn't been that same, you know, rich evolution of the grammar. And so, you know, to me that was like exciting, because that's a clean slate. This is something where I can you know, try to you know, innovate. What's the way to tell a better story in 3D? And you know what I found is by you know, letting the shot be what it should be originally in the story, but making sure you're conveying the correct sense of scale, point of view, and you know, and just otherwise the emotional depth of the shot.
Of course, that fits and starts. But part of the reason I think 3D came in such force in the 50s after its initial invention was to combat television, and many people feel that people like Jeffrey Katzenberg would be trumpeting 3D now as a great way to combat piracy and the internet. I don't know whether it's because recently I know Katzenberg was talking to the Hollywood Reporter about the fact that the attendance had dropped a little bit, and he felt that it was the studio's fault for not making better films. Whether you feel there is a there's a huge future, whether it's unknown as now of how this will.
I would say that arguably there is, because I think really the reason why it had those fits and starts earlier was just because the technological hurdle really hadn't been surmounted yet. There still wasn't a way to reliably deliver a great viewing experience to everybody. And but they tried. They tried in the 50s, they tried in the 80s, but I think until the advent of digital content acquisition, creation, and projection and display, that there really wasn't that technological foundation. That's why, so it was exciting when all of a sudden that came to me, when that came onto the forefront. All of a sudden, okay, we have the technology to do a good project. Now let's pretend, because now let's go to the next phase of innovation, where we try to say, how do we use this artistically? And I think as we see more and more content, people are going to start using it more artistically. And I think arguably 3D is something that people want to see, whether they get scared off by a couple of bad films or not. I think ultimately there's still something very engaging about it that'll bring them into the theaters.
Well, of course, Scorsese and Spielberg are there now.
Right.
Herzog had a great kind of success with the Cave of Forgotten Dreams, and Avatar obviously was a huge impact. But there is still that technological side of it that people are struggling with. And I've never met anybody come out of a 3D film and said, "Man, I feel great. My eyes just feel like they've been in heaven." There's always that strain on the eye. There's that sense of being difficult. That's obviously something that hopefully will improve. That will be made easier.
That will, and like I said, that's outside of the artistic part. That's the paramount, concern to me, is how to deliver a truly comfortable yet immersive experience. And so I'm always, like I said, I'm always looking at that balance and getting that balance, just right.
Rock and roll. I'll be giving the friendly finger. Nice to talk to you. Yeah.
Great talking to you.